it's a period we fondly remember, and we now go back and are very proud of how we survived during that period. But you think about 2000 is when we got started. All Fools Day, April 1 is when Deep incorporated this company. And very soon, dot-com bust happened. People called it, a bubble. Internet was a bubble, and the bubble has busted, and then mayhem. And there were some crazy valuations. There were companies were getting valued at on $1 billion valuations, billions of dollars of valuation, and without no revenue or no real understanding of how will this translate to dollars in terms of revenues and eventually profits. But that's the kind of risk you take when a new kind of system like internet is born. Everything did go wrong. So dot-com bust meant that our venture capitalist was eVentures at that time. They promised us a second round, but never happened because they folded up. So they went bust. So there was no question of, instead of they giving us money, they were asking us, listen, can you give us money because we are done? And it became a little interesting time. Deep, with his, managed to work up a plan with a couple of angel investors. And some of them are partners with eVentures who put in some capital. And I said, listen, there were 3 lines of MakeMyTrip business which we established initially. One was to do business within India for people traveling within India. One was people wanting to go overseas from India. And third one, which was a business which I knew because I'd worked in the US, was the NRIs living in the US largely, traveling to India. That's the business that's kind of was doing the best because, commerce and e-commerce and payment mechanisms in the US were fairly well entrenched and established over credit cards. That business started showing some signs of picking up online. And we decided when our venture capitalists backed out that, that's the business we're going to focus on. Deep had managed to raise some angel funding, did a clever deal with a company called eBookers who wanted to set up a BPO in India. So we kind of almost sold our assets, which was furnitures and computers, to them, gave them our office, and a lot of MakeMyTrip staff moved to eBookers, including Deep. And Rajesh had just joined in 2001 as a CFO. And he joined, and immediately the news of eVentures not funding happened. So, but he decided to carry on, continue with MakeMyTrip. He said, I'm taking the plunge. I'm not now going back to the old world. And so Deep, Rajesh kind of set up the BPO for eBookers in India. They were giving 80% of their time to eBookers, 20%. I, along with another one of our founders, Sachin Bhatia, decided to move to a smaller office, just run a very small, tight shop. And just say, listen, let's just currently keep our head above water and survive. I mean, we had some money, which was in today's, I think our total cash was $100,000, $150,000 or something like that left. And we had to figure out a way of saying, let's turn around this business and at least make it cash positive. So at least we can pay our bills. Me and Deep sat across one day in a cafeteria, and literally Deep just gave me a paper and said, write the names of 5-6 people who can move with you and if we can start this business. We moved to the mezzanine floor, and that's how we kind of just downsized to a bare minimum and kept the US-India business as a focus. We established a call center line. We got a number called 1-800-INDIA-10. And we were largely doing BPO, but acquiring customers online, but servicing them mostly over the call. We had a 24-hour call center manned by 2 to 3 people. I'd do possibly a 12-14-hour shift, which will overlap mainly with the US time, but do something in India, like go to the office around 2-3 in the afternoon, work till 2-3-4 in the morning, kind of overlap a little bit with people working during the day, but largely sell tickets over the phone and help people learn how to sell tickets over the phone, make some money. The revenue was in dollars, our expenses were in the rupees, so that kept us going.
This question, sorry, eBooker was like a sales online BPO. When you say they were doing what exactly?
Online travel agency out of GK.
Okay.
They were doing fairly well. They had listed on NASDAQ. So they were looking to, outsource their call center or their operations to India. And instead of outsourcing, Mr. Dhamija, who was the founder and CEO at that time, was from Delhi or from India. So he said, I might as well set up my own stuff. And then somebody got us the deal And so Deep and Rajesh said, okay, we'll set up a captive BPO for e-bookers in India. And that was eventually a fairly large operation at that time. So they were spending a lot of time setting up e-bookers back office in India, and but also at the same time giving 20-30% of their time to MakeMyTrip, because we had to divide, uh, and I had moved full time to say, okay, listen, I know this business, I'm just going to run this business for the next couple of years or till whenever needed, and just did everything possible to figure out how to sell tickets, how to make money. Kept acquiring customers efficiently. Sachin was doing marketing. He learned how to do marketing in the US quite well. We worked with a few of Indian sites, a few of NRI websites, few NRI newspapers, just figured out the business. And in a year or so, managed to get to a position where we were cash neutral. We're not making any money, but we had no, so there were times where we just didn't have any clue of what the future was looking like, because with limited money and the macro environment just becoming hostile by the day. So first we had 9/11, which clearly really hurt travel. But somehow the travel to India for Indians living in the US didn't get that badly affected, because that travel was not for leisure, but it was almost everyone had to come to India. Then we had SARS, which was the precursor to COVID. Now we know what it feels like in a bigger, but it was a smaller version of COVID. That was actually South Asia and Southeast Asia were impacted the most. So that happened. If that was not enough, the parliament attack happened. Then India and Pakistan almost went to a war where the embassies were even moving people out of India. They thought of a nuclear exchange at that time, which was scary but a reality. So everything that could have gone wrong in a period of 5 years just went wrong. I mean, macroeconomics, political, geopolitics, diseases. I don't know what else can go wrong, but that was the period. And there were times when we all used to feel, a little down and about. And I think it was Deep who came up with this absolute wonderfully crazy or crazily wonderful idea of having a salt day. And he said, listen, there's nothing much we can do, but let's just sulk on one day. I mean, but there's no point just worrying about this 24/7. Let's just get back. And we had to keep our chin up because there were people working with us. I mean, we can't let everyone just realize that what was the situation with our bank balance, because that would kind of, a lot of that people were very young and had total confidence. And we used to do then, I said, okay, let's make this a little more fun rather than things. So we used to do cheap but fun holidays. We used to get smaller targets, set smaller targets, and say, if we achieve this target, we will do something fun. I mean, I remember in 2001, we said, well, let's achieve X and then we'll go on a rafting trip. And amazingly, we said, okay, everyone will pay for the rafting trip. The company couldn't. But what we'll do is, instead of making it difficult for everyone to pay in one go, we'll say, okay, you pay in a 500 rupee monthly installment. So we started deducting 500 rupees from the salaries from the little before. And the friend who was running the rafting company was the guy who was running the rafting company, Aquaterra Adventures, was also a friend. So we figured out that we figure out the cash or how we'll pay them. We set targets. We used to have fun, working on those targets, practicing. We used to do almost practicing rafting, sitting in the office at midnight sometimes just to have fun, just break the monotony. And that really gave us a lot of energy. The two things that really helped is setting small targets, having a lot of fun around meeting those targets, celebrating those targets, and really limiting sulking. That was the phase which I think a combination of all of this helped keep the team together. We hardly had anyone who quit. Then as we slowly started the corners, started turning the corner, we would go and find better deals from anywhere. I mean, we were selling tickets in the US, which were actually sourced in Australia, because I knew someone in Australia, went on a business trip. He had a great deal for tickets from, say, US to India. And we're just doing anything, scraping and doing whatever to figure out how to make that extra $20. And that became fun. It became fun. It became challenging. We had the airlines not very happy with some of the things we were doing, but eventually it worked out. and we managed to turn the corner. But 2003, things started looking better, despite the fact that the environment was still hostile. The fact that we were making money in dollars, and that is a time when the Indian internet industry almost collapsed. So if you go back to 2000, there were hundreds of internet companies born, and they were funded pretty liberally. From now there to now,
Everybody who said that it's a startup was getting funded.
well, there were paper napkin plans. There were good guys doing it. Just the fact that execution was a little different. There were out of 2000, I think only 3 companies survive today, and I would only call it 2. Well, one is MakeMyTrip, one is Naukri.com. That they did a fabulous job of executing many good things, and the third one still exists, I believe. So I haven't checked, but Rediff.com. It also was there. I don't know what they still do, but they still are around, or they were around till I last checked. And then everyone else withered away. Kept on. So 2003 is when things. But it was just about figuring it out, how to keep the chin, and not really letting your motivation levels go down. When one had to see the light at the end of the tunnel, when there was no hope. And that was the real important part of our struggle. And it was amazing and how we worked as a founding team. I mean, if we go back, that's one, because there were just such complementary skills, and there was just total trust, knowing fully well, though, okay, you take a decision. There was nobody's questioned anyone's decision. We hardly debated even a decision. If somebody had taken a decision, and decisions had to be taken pretty much independently, because the areas were not overlapping. We would share decisions, but we were never, we didn't have big meetings to take decisions. We just took decisions very quickly. We implemented them very quickly. We had the freedom to mess it up, because you rather mess it up than not do anything and die. So it was a great period, and that remains. Possibly, if you go and ask people, even who is still around at MakeMyTrip, that might remain the best, the time they enjoyed the most. When, of course, now you look at the hindsight, and the story is very different. So anything that succeeds, everything else becomes a folklore and story. But even during that time, I think we had a lot of fun. So that, I think, made a big difference.